Gotcha.
All right. Well, so psyched to talk again to Carlos Childs, friend of Halitics. How you doing today, Carlos?
Good, good. How good? Having some funny moments out here in the 2025 year. Nice glasses too. Those new?
Oh yeah, these are. I just got these at the local hardware store actually for reading, so they're not prescription or anything. But I like the two tone, and now that I'm old, I guess I wear glasses like I guess a 10-year-old would wear. I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah, I say how you make glasses into your fashion statements.
Carlos and I are friends. We have worked together. We're both political junkies for sure. We're both writers. Carlos is a little more successful at getting his work published, perhaps, than I am, but we're both interested, of course, in the written word and the spoken word. So Carlos loves to join me. I think he does. I shouldn't say you love. I don't know. Maybe you hate joining me, but you do, which I appreciate. One other area that we've discovered we share is I think we're both kind of foodies, right? Like we're both into the, well, it doesn't have to be gourmet, but just food that tastes good.
Yeah, just gotta be good. I mean, I went to culinary school, so yeah, I have to be a certified foodie. Yeah,
that's right. You did. So, but you decided you got into the restaurant. But it's really hard, right? The work is incredibly hard, long hours, and not great wages either.
I mean, you got all of it right. Yeah, it's very physically taxing. No real money in it, and it's like you can move up, but there's always like a strong path where you can't go but so far.
Well, I actually will say I did a lot of work in restaurants too when I was younger. Maybe in my teens mostly, but even into my early 20s, and I enjoyed it. But fun. I didn't really see it like you decided it wasn't for you either a future path. But I enjoyed working in the restaurants, and it was kind of fun. When you're young and you meet a lot of people and you're out late, you enjoy it. But at some point, you got to move on, I think. Many of us make that decision. We'll put the pizza picture up. But before we talk about seafood, is that right? Did I have that right? You're a big fish and seafood guy?
Seafood, shrimp, crabs, fish, salmon, also steaks and lamb. Like red meat, amazing. Red meat is amazing. Yeah.
And you've been down to New Orleans, is that right? You had the etouffee and all that, or the jambalaya?
I've had the whole etouffee, jambalaya, original like shrimp and grits style, all of it. I think, honestly, the food from the South, amazing. Politics of the South is horrible, but the food is great.
Depends where, because I will say I didn't find the food in Atlanta particularly good. I don't know if you've been to Atlanta. I wasn't impressed. I don't know. Maybe I went to the wrong places. A lot of white bread, not really interesting. Texas, never been to Louisiana. I got to go down there. But the barbecue was amazing in Texas. So you would like that since you're a red meat guy too, because it's the brisket. They like the brisket there.
Yes, brisket is number one. I never really got too much into barbecue food because most of it is centered around pork, and I just don't eat pork like that at all. So I've always been like, okay, cool. I'm really excited because come November, me and some friends are taking a trip to Thailand. So I'm really excited. Like I love like different Asian cuisines. One of my dream trips is going to Japan because I just love sushi and just having like just a binge.
Oh wow! Yeah, the shrimp is big in Thailand. I think all their pad Thai and all that. It's real popular.
But Maine also has great seafood too.
I was going to say, because you were up in Boston area too, right? Yep. So you had more of that, sort of the cod, I think, is a big fish up there.
Cod, clam chowder was great. They even have good lobsters too. No one to me beats Maine lobster. Like going to Portland, Maine, lobsters there, and they were not even expensive either. Literally, you could have like two of them, $20 each.
I mean they used to be even a lot cheaper, but I guess prices of everything have gone up. But they're pretty plentiful in Maine waters. But with global warming, the warming oceans, you really don't find them as far south as you used to. So Maine is where you can go.
That's why you enjoy them now. I said soon there'll be no fish, so we got to enjoy them now.
You got it right. We got to fish them all out now before someone else does. I'm a pizza guy. You said you won't turn it down. Maybe not your favorite. Never. I love this story. We'll get into the politics, folks. By the way, Carlson are definitely going to get to New York mayor's race. We're going to get into kind of how progressives can possibly win battles, harkening back to the conversation I had with Rob Call and Chuck Pinocchio. And I think maybe we'll also get, what is the other deck? What else do I have in that deck? The DC Council, right? The DC government is repealing or trying to repeal the minimum wage that the voters overwhelmingly support. We'll talk about that example of complete, I guess, I don't know if we want to call it fascism, Carlos, but just no democracy, right?
Economic fascism. Yeah.
Local fascism.
No. Economic fascism. Like they're just saying we're going to do what we want to. Who really cares what you have to say? Thank you for voting. I'm glad you have peace of mind that you got to engage in democracy.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to be very angry about, very upset about. That's why we like to talk about now. Let's get a break and talk about pizza. I love this story, maybe because I love New Haven pizza. I went to college in Connecticut, lived on the border of New York and Connecticut, always liked New York pizza, always liked Connecticut pizza. I agree with Connecticut. I think they have the best pizza, and they're trolling New York City. This picture from the New York Times, you can see the state of Connecticut bought a billboard they put over the Two Brothers Pizza Ria in New York City, and it says the nation's best pizza, not you, New York. So great campaign, eh, Carlos?
Oh, I love it. Actually, I never knew Connecticut had pizza. So I did not know that they were known for pizza and all that, from which we were talking about. You were saying how it's mostly like, it's less cheese, more like sauce based. But hey, I'm always willing to try new pizza. I will never turn a pizza down.
Let's see if we can get. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The chain pizza that I like the best is Lido's, just because it's this thin crust. It's like those like square kind of squares. It's perfect. Every bite has all the stuff on it. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, but chain pizza is always going to, I think, come up a poor second compared to the artisanal. This is made by just this one pizzeria here. This is New Haven. That's from Sally's, which for my money is the best pizza I ever had. It may not have gone downhill, but I understand they're still serving up an incredible pie. You can see it's charred on one end because they use this 1,000-degree oven there with the anthracite coal, and not a lot of cheese, as you said, and a lot of tomatoes. They like the tomatoes. It's ridiculously good.
Yeah, that's the first time I think I've ever heard of people using like charcoal with pizza. Normally it's like different types of wood and stuff like that, but okay.
Yeah, wood fired, but this is not charcoal. It's just coal. It's actually like a big chunk of anthracite coal that they have in an oven right next to the. So it's not like briquettes. It's not like
Okay. Yeah.
Those
grilling and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just they use coal as the fuel to get that oven incredibly hot. And the other thing the coal is good, better than wood, is it lasts longer. You don't need to keep putting more and more wood in. You see, when you see the wood-fired ovens, you have somebody tending it, and they're putting in more wood all the time because it burns down so quickly. But apparently those coal chunks are incredibly concentrated, and they just burn for hours. So it's a little easier for them in that regard.
Yeah, I worked at a pizza restaurant once, and it was almost like somebody's job just to manage the oven, because they had like just chunks of wood, had to go in, got to move it around, make sure it doesn't just all burn out on one side, all that. So, okay.
Hey, yeah, and they got the ashes too. You got to clean out the ashes too with the wood, whereas the coal burns super clean as well. So,
really?
Yeah. I mean, it emits a lot of dust, and there's a lot of, but that all goes out the chimney, and then the neighbors get it on their yard and their house and everything. But
but that's fine. I mean, hey, look. Sometimes you got to crack eggs to make a good pizza. So,
but that's basically how that works. And yeah, pizza's ridiculously good. So any other? Yeah, next time you go up to Yale, New Haven, but right near Yale. When I was a kid, I went up to some events in high school. When I was in high school, that were held at Yale University, and we'd eat pizza every time. That was like the best reason to go, was to eat that pizza.
Okay. Hey, that's going to be a trip. That's something I'll go for. I'll go on a nice like pizza Northeast trip.
You're a seafood guy. Frank Pepe's has the white clam pizza. So they put clams on the pizza.
Oh, okay, Hal. You have to send me the name of that restaurant. I'm gonna go there. Because a seafood pizza with the white sauce on it too. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that pizza myself,
Really?
but some people don't like the clam pizza, but it's a big seller.
Part, or is it like the white sauce part?
Well, they don't have the tomato clam. You can get a tomato clam, but it's white pizza. I guess they have some kind of cheese. I don't know. I've never ordered it, but I think they call it the white clam. They actually have one. There's a Frank Pepe Napolitana in Bethesda. So not too far from you there's a mall over there, the Montgomery Mall. I think it's called Montgomery Mall. And they have a Frank Pepe there. And it's good. I've gotten their pizza. I don't think it's going to be as good as what you get in New Haven, but it's pretty damn good. You can get their clam pie there too.
Okay. Oh yeah. Wait, I see it. All right, cool. I'm gonna have to check it out. It's this place near me called Pizza Bowlies that they have they have like almost like a seafood Alfredo pizza with like shrimp, crab meat on it, all that mixed in.
Yeah, there are Pizza Bowlies around, but I don't know that. But and I've never had the white clam from Frank Pepe's, but what I understand is it's good from people who like it. So.
If you can mix seafood and pizza, I'm sold.
Carlos, you and I have lamented many times. I'm going to shift gears into politics. We have lamented just what a sorry state of affairs. We'll talk about D.C., how the D.C. local government there is absolutely just stabbing its voters in the back. New York has had its share of pretty crappy politicians, whether we're talking about the ex-governor soon. He hopes, I hope not, to be the next mayor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, corrupt, a sexual harasser. The current mayor, Eric Adams, under, I believe, indictment, or at least he was. He kind of got out of it, right, because Trump gave him a pardon, but
kind of, but not really, because remember, he put it on hold. He didn't take him off of it, so it's always like, hey, you walk out of line just a little bit, we'll bring you back.
Well, both of them are on the ballot in the Democratic primary, but I am backing this guy. I don't know if you've been following. His name is Zohran Mamdani, and I'm not we both of us aren't Democrats, but in New York, you pretty much have no choice a lot of times. Let's play this clip. This guy is number 2 with a bullet right now in the polls.
This evening, New York Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury.
So this is his ad, and I love he starts it. You hear him saying New York Mayor Adams has been indicted. He also goes after Cuomo, too. There's also a good dig about Cuomo in there. So let's play a little more. Let's play the ad and see what you think.
Says New York is the greatest city on the globe. But what good is that if no one can afford to live here? City Hall is engulfed in corruption.
Unscientific.
The cost of living is the real crisis. New Yorkers are being crushed by rent and childcare. The slowest buses in the nation are robbing us of our time and our sanity. Working people are being pushed out of the city they built. A mayor could change this, and that's why I'm running. I'll make buses fast and free.
So I can just get where I'm going.
I'll make childcare available to all New Yorkers at no cost.
I want to raise my kid in New York.
And I'll freeze the rent for every single rent-stabilized tenant.
These Eric Adams rent hikes are killing us.
Life in this city doesn't need to be this hard. But politicians like Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo want it to be this way. They care about their donors. They care about themselves. They don't care about you, the working class who keep this city running. This campaign is for every New Yorker who believes in the dignity of their neighbors. And the government's job is to actually make our lives better. We can afford to bring down the rent, have world-class public transit, and make it easier to raise a family. We can do all of that and so much more because this is New York. We can afford to dream.
All right, so there you go, Zohran Mamdani. What do you think, Carlos?
That was good. That's a socialist kind of package of policies, honestly. And if any city could do it, it would be like a New York City that could do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a feel-good ad. I never trust any politicians, but he has walked the walk in the past. He's been really progressive, and he's doing well in the polling. So,
really, okay.
I wish him well.
Yeah,
Do you-
we always need. We need more actual leftists, yes, but if we can get one that actually kind of does the actual policies that they talk about when they get in, even better. Yeah, I'm surprised. Is Eric Adams even doing well in the poll? I'm surprised people are even considering it at this point.
Well,
It's
let's
sad.
look at this is the latest poll. This just came out, Carlos. I want to get into it. It's very, very interesting because the race there is ranked choice voting, which I truly support. I love ranked choice voting. So the Emerson polling service really did a deep dive. And I believe there's 8 or 9 candidates, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe there's 10. So there's 9 rounds, because in each round, one candidate is eliminated, the one with the fewest first place votes. And you can see they rank them by the number of first class votes they get in the first round. So Cuomo leads, then Mamdani, and you can see those two are way ahead of everyone else, with Cuomo with a significant lead in first class, over 13, but it's not a runaway. Lander is I believe, comptroller, Brad Lander third, Stringer fourth, Adams fifth with 8% of the vote. I'm not sure who likes Eric Adams. I saw a poll about 6-7 months ago that said that black voters have abandoned him, that they do not like Adams, which surprised me a little. Like, I would have thought, well, he is African American. There's some affinity, but I think the scandals have hurt him with the African American community as everyone else, but maybe some percentage.
Well, also remember in New York City, they were also having the same problems that a lot of the major cities were having when you had the busing of migrants from like southern states up to these like major cities. A lot of black people were pushed out of their like community centers, pushed out of their neighborhoods, and then they were putting people or giving people resources that they weren't giving the black residents, which to me was set to create a kind of like hostile environment between two minority communities, when actually people should have been mad at the government because why aren't you giving us these resources?
Yep, it's to pit poor, struggling, working class, marginalized groups absolutely against each other, and to give a cushion to the elites. Absolutely right. And I just moved this out. So it took 10 rounds for Cuomo, for every candidate but Mamdani to be eliminated, for Cuomo to go over the top. I think this is close enough that, yes, Mamdani could win. Very interesting the way they do it. I like ranked choice voting. Have you given much thought to it? What do you think?
Oh, I like it too. I think it's a great way to do voting so that everyone's vote actually does matter, and people can actually vote their conscience when they vote and not feel like voting is some strategic game of chess that you're playing with the rest of the constituents.
Name recognition is always really important. And the two big names in this race, obviously, are Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo. But that recognition isn't necessarily positive. Are you surprised that Cuomo would have the lead despite the scandals? That we're going to play an ad which highlights those scandals in a moment, from the United Auto Workers, who have endorsed Mamdani.
Wow. Okay, that's great. I will say this. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I'm surprised because it's like, what is it going to take for people to realize someone's a horrible person, or at least a horrible elected official? But then also, I'm sure there's people who just know that Cuomo name and say, of course, why wouldn't I pick a Cuomo? I've heard Cuomo before. I knew it was when his daddy was governor.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And there's the bridge, there's the Mario Cuomo Bridge. You go over that bridge if you need to get into wherever, that most New Yorkers don't use that bridge, but it's close, and I'm sure they see signs for it. So it's in their face, and they remember Governor Cuomo, and things were pretty good. I thought he was a pretty good governor. I may have been in New York when he was governor. I don't even remember. Let's get into this just a little bit more now. The poll had 1,000 voters, and apparently there are going to be even some Republicans voting in that primary. I think they changed the rules. I'm not really sure how a Republican could vote.
Open primary?
It's weird in New York because I didn't think there was, but they do talk to Republicans too. I'm not really clear as to why. I thought New York was super closed, super tight.
Yeah.
But
how do you feel about open primaries? Do you support them, or you kind of?
Here's the thing.
support it.
I don't support them because there's too much rat effing going on where people go in and try to mess up the other side.
Yeah.
But I think we need the way to deal with the problem where you have a minority of voters in a primary who ultimately choose the winning candidate. I think the way you can kind of get around that are two ways. With ranked choice voting, and we need more political parties. We need more viable parties, Carlos.
No, you're right. I mean, because there's a lawsuit, I believe, going on in Maryland about whether our primaries should be open or not.
And the lawsuit says there shouldn't be state money going to those primaries to hold them if they're not open. What's your take? Because you asked me mine. What do you think? I'm very curious.
I don't support open primaries personally because I'm thinking then honestly, all the people who aren't in whatever the majority the majority is, they're just going to go vote in the primary for the other party that kind of closely aligns with them. So take Maryland. If you had a very a moderate Democrat Maryland, like Maryland always has a moderate Democrat, you could get an influx of Republican people who say, okay, well, we're going to vote for even more conservative, which is kind of, at that point, you might as well just have a Republican. But I mean, you look at Maryland, a lot of the Democrats, you might as well just have a Republican.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. The Republicans and Democrats aren't that dissimilar, right? Yeah. I mean, Wes Moore and Larry Hogan probably agree more than they disagree, certainly on economic issues.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is sad. And now, but hey, I always wanted to know, how does it feel as like a resident of a state where your governor or your senator or something is running for president? Because I also feel like, does it feel like they're not spending their full attention to your state?
Well, Wes Moore insists he's not running for president.
My question: why are you in South Carolina? Like, why are you in all these primary states that people think you run? Because my idea is this: either he's running for president, or he's like kind of showing himself as like, I could be a good vice president to whoever gets it.
I am not a Wes Moore fan. I will not vote for Wes Moore if he is, I doubt I would vote for him. It would be hard. Maybe, I won't say I definitely wouldn't, but I probably wouldn't. But I will say this. I think Wes Moore would be a much stronger general election candidate than Kamala Harris was.
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, I think he's better at just like speaking to people. And speaking just like on the cuff. He's just better speaking on the cuff than she is. I don't think she wasn't a good candidate. She wasn't.
I mean, I look at Wes Moore's record. He kind of came out of nowhere. He wasn't anointed by the party. He wasn't like she was, right? From day one.
That's not true.
I don't think he was the preference of the Democratic Party of Maryland any more than who was Obama's labor secretary? Perez. Tom Perez.
I don't think Perez was really. I think Perez and Moore were two of the most like kind of favored by the establishment, but Moore definitely was favored by around like Baltimore politicians, around some Prince George's politicians. He was favored amongst the political class too. It was both.
Well, I'm not saying he wasn't, but it wasn't. I mean, I think the red carpet was laid out for Harris from the time she had been an assistant district attorney in San Francisco, and anybody who might oppose her was kind of cleared out.
No, they didn't have that here. They didn't. Maryland.
It wasn't like that. Moore ran a smart race. He campaigned in areas where he could get an advantage, and he speaks well. Obviously,
he's a good campaigner. He's a good campaigner.
He's good. He'll be a good candidate. I don't like his policies. I mean, that's what I vote on, so it doesn't matter to me, all that stuff. But I'm just saying, if you want to win, I could see Wes Moore winning.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can definitely see him winning as president. I can see him being he gives me the Obama vibes of how to campaign. Like, he knows how to build a coalition of like different people from different backgrounds, actually build a coalition, but have a main base of your coalition too, and how to run with it. Now, I do think his veto of reparations would definitely hurt him when it comes to the Black community. I know that's definitely going to be a big pause for a lot of people.
I'm not so sure about that, Carlos, and we'll get into why I think it might not hurt him as badly as you seem to think, and others might think. But let me throw one other point out at you, and I've got that slide up there now about the UAW president, Sean Fain. So we'll talk about his ad. The ad the UAW has a very good ad for, or at least a clip that will play. But do you think, and I was thinking about, how Obama said, some of the brothers aren't feeling a woman candidate. Do you think that, and I'm not just the brothers, but I mean, that's what he said. I hate to say it because I don't like Kamala Harris, and I don't want to say the reason she could have, or part of the reason she didn't attract voters is because she's a woman and a woman of color. I don't want to go there because I think there are plenty of good reasons not to vote for her. But I also think maybe it's true. Attractive African-American man might have more appeal to more voters than Kamala Harris did.
I mean, I'll say this. I don't think it was anything specific to like black people not voting for her because she was a woman. I think that her being a black woman was, I'll say this. If she was I'll say her being a black woman definitely helped as far as her getting the support of black women and also black men. I do think that overall, just men and even women in general, I think there's a large percentage of people who just do not want to see a woman president. Do I think the right candidate, a compelling candidate, could win them over? Of course. I think another problem is that because all that people really talk about on politics at a national level is social issues, is that when you have a woman, a black person, an Asian person, or someone who's not your stereotypical white male, that what people start seeing is all those social issues that I may or may not agree with. But if people center their policies and stuff in economic issues, then I think you would see people be open to voting for anyone under the sun, no matter how you look and all that, because they're saying, I may not agree with you about social issues, but when I think of you, I don't see a social issue. I see what you actually stand for as far as my money.
100%. I think all that is accurate. I guess all I'm saying is that I do also think, and it's unfortunate, that there are voters, men and women, black and white, Asian, doesn't matter, mixed race, who maybe are a little less comfortable voting for a woman than a man. I agree with that. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That's something that is going to take. It's going to take a lot of candidates to just keep chipping away at that. What's that Hillary term? That glass ceiling. Yeah, the glass ceiling gets a little bit more thin as Hillary Clinton threatens to run for office all the time. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to New York's we're in a New York state of mind here on Halitics. Don't forget to click like, click subscribe. So I mentioned that the United Auto Workers is supporting Zohran Mamdani. They released a video. I do want to play that video. I think the video is really effective, Carlos. Let's play it. And they throw a lot of shade at both Adams and Cuomo, which I frankly think is hilarious. I love it. I think it's a great ad. I'm giving it away, but I just want people to think about that as they're watching that, because you don't want to miss it. Here we go.
I'm sure other speakers will talk about the 15,000 seniors that died in New York State nursing homes due to COVID and the serious missteps of the Cuomo administration. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm sure other speakers will discuss the multiple sexual harassment charges brought against former Governor Cuomo, but that's not what I'm here to talk about either. I'm here to tell you that when United Auto Workers needed Governor Cuomo's help, he turned his back on us.
Our members want a better, safer, and more affordable city. Someone who passes up the opportunities to support workers in a time of crisis, that person is unfit to be mayor of working-class New Yorkers.
Our membership across the country went out on strike in September of 2019 against GM. UAW Region 9 and 9A worked hard, lobbied a state legislator to get a bill passed that would ensure that unemployment would come after 1 week. Cuomo, as governor, governor had the chance to sign that bill into law. Not only did he not sign that bill into law, he never stepped foot on any of our strike lines. Let me repeat that. He never stepped foot on any of our strike lines. Cuomo was absent and ignored every one of our calls. This is a man who wants you all to believe he supports labor.
We're talking about a man who created Tier 6, which took more than $100,000 out of the pockets of working class public sector workers. A man who I just saw for the first time in my life, just last week, describing Tier 6 as ancient history. The only thing that's ancient history is Andrew Cuomo.
Enough with the corruption, enough with the chaos, enough with the yielding to corporate bosses. Let's elect a mayor who works for working New Yorkers.
When we needed Andrew Cuomo, Cuomo showed cowardice. So New Yorkers, don't get fooled again.
Yeah, I think that's such a great, really, really powerful stuff there.
Wait, I'm a little confused. Wasn't Lander also running?
He is. Lander's running, but he says don't rank Cuomo. So what UAW, and by the way, I like what they did here. So they did put Lander in there because they really just want to, just throw all the shade they can possibly. And I was a little surprised by that too. But I think it's really smart because it's a ranked choice election. So this is how they're getting, I guess this is how they figure they can get Lander on board. What their ask is, which is to rank Mamdani ahead of Cuomo. Even if they don't rank him ahead of Lander, they want to rank him ahead of.
So that even as the rank choice goes down, he has no way of. You know what? I think rank choice voting also has the really key of making it so people with the same ideologies kind of work together.
Absolutely.
You don't have these quote unquote spoiler candidates.
Absolutely. You can see it there. UAW says don't rank Cuomo, rank Mamdani number one. So they're making it clear they support Mamdani, but they also are getting, hopefully, they hope anyway, Lander voters to rank Mamdani ahead of.
Yeah.
So I think that's really smart. That's really smart.
That is smart, especially if you get people to rank Mamdani 1, Lander 2, it at least has a buffer in case anything happens with Mamdani that Lander is at least a second person.
Yeah. No, it's a good call, and it's really powerful. Now, I said I thought they threw shade at Adams in that ad. I don't think they're concerned about Adams. I think Adams is recognized as not going to win. But I love how he said, I'm not going to talk about the seniors that died in nursing homes because of, his corruption. And so they got to get that out there.
I mean, that's a lot of, that was the reason so many people and so many elected officials in New York were supporting him resigning. So to me, it's crazy that you think you can resign in disgrace and come back as the mayor of New York City.
Well, here's something that's going to this actually surprised me. I'm going to show you I don't know if from the poll. And so we do, with Carlos, we talk about race, we talk about sex, we talk about that with everyone. The strongest support for Andrew Cuomo is from African-American voters, which I have to say is quite a surprise. But you know what else, Carlos? Guess who's the number 2 group that supports him? Women. And this is a guy who's a serial sexual harasser.
What?
So you have 2 groups that did not do well. Let's face it. Andrew Cuomo was not a good governor for anyone who is an elite. He was good governor for Wall Street. Wall Street did really well under him. He was a good governor for real estate tycoons like Donald Trump. He was not a good.
He's a corporate governor. Wait. So you're telling me his main?
Look at this is from the poll. So how surprising is this? Look at this. Isn't this a shock? I was really surprised. I have a theory that I want to give you, and then but you don't have a theory on that, right? Because wouldn't you think they would be black voters if they're going to vote for some establishment hack? It would be Eric Adams.
I have a theory. That the hatred of Eric Adams kind of was look, he's not helping our community. We hate him. We're going to the next thing that we know, and we know Andrew Cuomo. I think it's a lot of we know him, we've heard of him, and I think some people may not have heard of Mamdani. But I also want to say this, that I've realized this even watching the the Fight the Oligarchy tour and things like that, a lot of left circles,
it's all
you'll
white.
see them. They don't move in black spaces, really.
They don't.
Like, you don't see a lot of, like, even you'll see them more in the Latino communities than you will the black communities too. And I'm thinking back to 2020 when Bernie Sanders won Nevada but lost South Carolina in a landslide. And it just shows you like what kind of emphasis is put. And I think a lot of progressives don't go to black spaces as much because I think a lot of progressive people, or just leftists in general, because progressive is Amy Klobuchar now, but I think a lot of leftists, they see black voters as either like they don't know how to connect, or just out of that black voters are already sold into this like kind of moderate corporate side of Democrats.
Well, I really want your take because I have some theories, so I'll give one, but a couple thoughts come to mind. One is, and we've talked about this, a lot of African-American voters are more conservative. And there's a couple reasons for that. The church, also because they're virtually all Democrats, right? There are very few Republican black voters. So the Democratic cohort includes conservatives, because just because you're a Democrat doesn't make you lefty, liberal, progressive, not at all, as we know. But if you take a large group of people and all of them are, or almost all are Democrats, then that, I think in that case, you're going to have more conservatives within that group. So I think that's part of it. I also think, and you see this from women too, and I got this from talking to my family members, is there's a real just visceral fear, emotional anger, hatred of Republicans and specifically Trump. And I think there's a sense, just like we saw, we'll vote for Biden because he can beat Trump. We'll vote for Hillary because she can beat Trump. Even though New York is a super Dem state, super Dem city, there's no way it's going to go Republican. There's this thought, well, the Dem establishment is going to beat the Republican. Maybe Mamdani's got a funny name. Maybe he would lose.
Can't really win against a Republican.
Yeah, he can't really win, which is really kind of crazy because if you look at the numbers, it's like 23% are going to vote Republican, period, and that's going to be the end of it. But that may be part of it. That may also be because a lot of women hate, and I say that also because I look at the women vote, and I heard this. I said, hey, vote for Mamdani to people, and I got a response, well, can he beat the Republican? What about the Republicans? I want someone who's going to stand up to Trump. And
what is that? How that doesn't mean anything. Like, standing up to Trump does not mean anything other than just anyone can stand up to Trump. Republicans can stand. Elon Musk technically stood up to Trump by leaving in the way he did. Are we going to start applauding him?
Dude,
no.
I'm not agreeing with the rationale. I'm just giving you what I hear. I don't agree with it.
Technically, he stood up to Trump against it. Like, what are that? Like, to me, just standing up to Trump doesn't mean anything. And also, I think this is the ultimate problem with Democrats, that Republicans don't have the same issue. You don't hear Republicans say, hey, we can't elect kind of someone who embodies actual conservative values at this point, or MAGA values, because he or she may not beat the Democrat. They say, look, we're just going to drag you to the finish line no matter what.
Oh, yeah,
Democrats,
I agree. They'd rather lose to a Democrat than elect like a Republican like a Mitch McConnell. A lot of times they don't care unless you're with them 100%. And I think that's how we should vote too. I agree with you, but that isn't.
Say, hey, we're going to make people. We will turn out people to vote. But Democrats would rather say, I don't think you can be a Republican. It's even like I have conversations with people that still think like in Maryland, Larry Hogan is a threat to run for governor. And it's like, how long do we have to be told we are a blue state that you will not have a Larry Hogan as a governor anymore?
Well, and also, why would you even be so afraid of a Larry Hogan governor if you're content, like we said, with the West Moore? I'm not really seeing a lot of difference. We're not getting healthy Maryland under West Moore.
Nope.
We didn't get it under Hogan. We're not getting reparations under Moore, or at least he vetoed it. Now, you told me you think it's going to get overridden. And that's not my issue, although, as I said, I would vote for it. I would vote for reparations. Not my issue, but I'd vote for it.
Under Hogan.
It could have happened under Hogan. Exactly.
So exactly. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing here?
And we've seen cuts, right? Exactly. What are we doing here? That's right. I don't see the exact,
Yeah, Democrats have a scared of their own shadow problem, and Republicans have a we'll do whatever we want to problem. Which I mean, the reason I say it's a problem for Republicans is just because their politics are bad, but Democrats' politics are bad too. It's just the ones who actually have some sense of hey, let's fight, are either stuck to the Democratic Party where they won't challenge it, or they are not going to just leave the party and do independent or third party. So then we're stuck with.
Well, this is why I'm all in for the Green Party. I'm all in for independence. And we're going to talk about that perhaps at the end of the program. But you wanted to talk about this story. I didn't even know about this. I'm so not surprised that the DC Democrats are going, just basically stabbing the voters in the back, because the voters voted right here. You can see, let me put this on here, that well, first we'll just put the headline up from WTOP News. This is a big news outlet in DC area. So in an emergency, it's an emergency. We've got to pause that rise in the minimum wage. My God, it's like a flood or a fire. It's such a big emergency.
It's a capitalist disaster, Hal.
It's extraordinary. It's so, some of the restaurants already have it on their bill, by the way. I've noticed it. I've seen those on their bills, but I've seen it on the bills. So what's going on here? What are we doing here, Carlos?
Again, that's the $1 million question. What we're doing here is basically DC is going against the voters. Not just it's not even just you had just a wild group of leftists on the council who got this passed. This was literally a ballot initiative that people literally voted for this. And it is now the DC elected officials basically saying, you don't know what's best for you. I know what's best for you. And what's best for you is to make less money. That's it. And they're kowtowing to a restaurant industry that, honestly, the people in the restaurant industry know you can afford to pay your workers. And I'm sorry if it sounds messed up. If you're a business that can't pay your employees, either you shouldn't have that many employees or you shouldn't be in business. Yeah.
I told you about this last year. I was in Germany. They don't, the servers there don't expect tips. They don't want tips. You can leave a euro if you got one in your pocket. That's it. Because they're paid a good wage. They make a decent living. And the prices are no higher. It wasn't more expensive to go grab a beer and a hot dog.
Nope.
Which they do eat, by the way, Frankfurt. They, whatever, you can get it there, whatever you want, the same food, pretty much.
Yeah. But it seems hey,
but they can pay their servers a decent wage. So why can't we? We can't too, but the restaurants don't make quite as much profit.
Yeah, that's it. You're just gonna make a little less profit. So maybe not lease out 3 cars at a time. Maybe you can only lease out 1. I am so sorry. We should all cry for you and fill the rivers. It's stupid. It's stupid how we are continually seeing elected officials put the needs over the managerial class, the owners of businesses and restaurants over the actual working people who outnumber the wealthy people. Again, and it's crazy because they're not even thinking that at this from a sense of how do we stay in office or get elected again, because it's more people who are servers at a restaurant than there are who are actual owners of a restaurant in DC. So What are we doing?
Trump is really, smart is maybe not the right word, but canny, because remember, he's got that no tax on tips. He doesn't have to worry about getting laws passed. He's like, hey, we're going to tell the IRS, and who's going to fight him on that? And so he looks like the hero when the Democrat, he's saying to the workers, don't worry about, keeping track of your tips. No one's going to tax you on those.
Yep.
While the DC, council is saying, sorry, we're taking away your raise. So, what a shock that a lot of working people are voting for Trump. Gee, who could have seen that coming?
Exactly. And actually 2 things to that, which is kind of crazy. One, I remember even in the 2020 election, or 2024, 2024 election. After Trump said, "Oh, we're not going to tax tip workers," then that's when Harris comes out and says, "Well, we're not going to tax tip workers." I'm like, all right, can someone come up with a better policy? Maybe no more tip workers and everyone makes salary. Ooh, scary. But the other side of it is that not enough conversation went. Because they're not going to tax tipped workers, that means you're not paying into your Social Security taxes. And also, I think that's a way to like secretly kind of cut Medicare and Medicaid funding too. Of like, God, let's take out this big section of people who normally are paying into stuff. And then one, we're going to defund kind of Medicare, Medicaid, but also I don't think enough people were informed about if you're not paying into your Social Security when you do retire. Now, given the restaurant industry is not a real good place to retire of currently, you have even less than you might have before.
You know, that's a great point, Carlos, and I hadn't thought about that at all, but you're absolutely right. It actually works out well for the restaurant industry as well if you don't tax the tips. And the workers get that short-term sugar high because they have more money in their pocket. In the end, they'll be worse off. So really, all really good points. I don't know that they would necessarily be worse off because the money, the workers may not be, because this money they save on taxes is probably greater than what would have gone into Social Security, even with the employer's match. That is true. But they're going to spend the money. They'll have less when they retire. And in the end, you know, it may not work out for them very well. So really good points by you all around, Carlos. And ultimately what we see is Trump's political instincts are much better than the Democrats.
He does have good he has as crazy, I don't even know if it's political instincts or he's good at talking. Like he is good at just saying, all right, cool. What's the pulse of how people are feeling, and how can I wedge myself right into a situation where people who already like me are going to like me a little bit more. Maybe I can get people on the margins of other places. Right.
And that's something the Democrats, like he actually went into the Arab neighborhoods in Michigan, and he asked for their votes. He asked for the votes of Muslims and Arab, because there's not overlap, right? A lot of Arab speakers and people from Arab countries are Muslim, but not all. And certainly not all Muslims are from Arab countries. In fact, I think the majority are not. But regardless, Trump asked for their vote, whereas Harris went out of her way to like piss them off and alienate them and say, no, you don't get to speak at our convention, and I'm not going to campaign. And I'm going to campaign with Liz Cheney, who's like an ardent Zionist. So.
And now Liz Cheney is nowhere to be found. That's my thing. They do all this vetting on these like ultra conservative, like horrible people, and then they just disappear one day. And it's like, all right, cool, who cares? Like, well,
so is Harris, right? I mean, she's supposedly going to run for governor, but we haven't seen much hide nor hair of her either. I do believe that we got into this a little bit on Facebook with one of our Facebook friends. I don't know if you weren't part of that conversation or not, Carlos, but the question, you know, there was a lot of criticism, and justly so, of Harris for campaigning with Liz Cheney. But I made the point, hey, that's who she is. That's her authentic self. Democrats should be authentic. It's clear she loved it, didn't she? You could see she had a big smile on her face. This is my bestie, right? This is who I want to be with. So, not with Tim Walz, not with AOC, not with Bernie. No.
Not even with the union presidents. None of them. Well, okay, here's my thing with her. I always believe that she never cared. Like, I think if the people who ran her campaign said, look, you're going to start campaigning with Sean, Sean Fain, you're going to start campaigning with AOC and all that, I think she would have said, all right, cool, I'll do that. If someone said, I need you to go campaign with this person, okay, because even her political, well, actually, never mind. You're right. No, you are right, because I remember her race for DA when I was reading about that. She was the conservative one in the race for DA.
Yeah, so no, she's conservative. But that said, I agree with you that she basically was, to a significant degree, a puppet. She did what she was told, which is a huge negative for her, right? I mean, that's not what we want. We want somebody who makes decisions. And that's one thing, again, you'll say about Trump is, well, he pretty much does what now he doesn't always. Like, I think he's letting Miriam Adelson run the Israel policy, which is horrible. But, you know, people say, I want a strong leader. The first person you think of isn't Kamala Harris. Whereas you might, you think of Barack Obama, you think of Bill Clinton, you may not like him. I don't, but they're strong leaders. Trump pretty much makes the decisions, but you don't feel like that with Harris when she was in charge. But that said, I think she liked being with Liz Cheney. I think she enjoyed it. And I base that just on body language, on smiles, the way she acted when they were together. She seemed really comfortable with her.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and to your point about Trump kind of selling stuff off to Miriam Adelson and other people, I think Trump in his mind has things he cares about and things he doesn't care about at all. And then the things he feels like he doesn't care about, I'll ship it out to whoever pays me enough or I get enough things from. Sure, you can do whatever you want to. That's why I don't think he cared about Elon Musk. I think he was like, do whatever you want to. And once you're done doing what you do, you can leave. And then I don't really care about you anymore. I don't care what you're doing.
I agree with that. 100% on that too. All right, let's get into this final conversation. You and I connected through the Our Revolution Maryland organization, which claimed to pursue an inside-outside strategy with the Democratic Party. We try to have insiders, people who are elected. We're going to try to change the party from within, but we're also going to pressure from without. I became very disenchanted with the organization. The more it became clear to me it was basically an inside strategy. They weren't pushing the Democratic Party from the outside, really. And to the extent that they did, it was only, it was still within bounds. They, for example, were very reluctant or refused to support candidates who weren't Democrats. So I want to play this clip. I have this guy on, Rob Call and Chuck Pinocchio. They're two friends of Halitics, just like you're a friend of Halitics. Yeah, they're friends of Halitics too. And they came on to talk about their strategy, which is to try to unite progressive groups like PDA, Our Revolution, DSA, whatever, any groups that will talk to them to kind of pursue a united strategy. I'm not sure what that strategy is, but let's just play this a little bit, and I want to get your take. So here we go. This is from a couple weeks ago.
I have studied and written about this piece of the problem that Rob alluded to, and that's what's commonly referred to as the nonprofit industrial complex, which is a really a systematic hijacking of left ideas, left organizations, left think tanks by moneyed interests that don't want to see them succeed. And these organizations get started by and large with good vision, good mission, good purpose. But then they transform into money raising, funding centered operations, and they lose sight of.
Let me stop it there. I just want to say 100%, right? I mean, do you have anything to add?
I mean, a nonprofit's goal, whether it's stated or not, and is kind of like, you can't, what did that one person say? A nonprofit would not be in business if the solution was solved, if the problem was solved.
Right. And you fundraise to pay the salaries of the staff, right? So it's not to necessarily accomplish the mission of the organization. And then those salaries go away if the mission is met. That said, and I don't want to speak out of school, but you did tell me that you had a very good experience working for a nonprofit. Because I asked you about that.
And we actually did some good, so you know what? I'll say this. Where I do not believe that nonprofits are the solution to fixing the issues that nonprofits work on, I do think nonprofits can make a significant amount of change depending on how that nonprofit is run, the kind of work that they invest in. And I'll say this, you do need hired organizers. You do need people who get paid to do this type of work because it's very labor intensive. It's a very emotionally intensive job to do. I think that when it comes to end all be all solutions of stopping these major issues, I think to a point nonprofits are not going to be the solution to it. I think that nonprofits can mediate a lot of situations and can help bring an end to situations. But also, I'll say this, how I think there needs to be a separation when people talk about nonprofits from your C3, which work on just overall issues and what's going on in people's day-to-day lives, and the C4, which try to move the legislative part of it or the electoral part. I think combined they can make some real change. I think separated, there's a limit to what they can do, and there's a limit overall what nonprofits can do.
How would you recommend folks kind of decide if a nonprofit is actually effective, is sincere, and that your money, if you give them, some of your hard-earned cash will be reasonably well spent.
I'm going to be honest with you.
I mean, I saw you like, you're like, I don't know. And that's, maybe you do, but I don't. I mean, I'm asking you, I have no idea.
I have zero idea because it's easy. Like, unless you're a part of the nonprofit or you volunteer and you actually physically see what they do, I think that's the only kind of way. But still, like, look at all these nonprofits who say, oh, we do all this X, Y, and Z. And then like a report comes out that finds that, oh no, all that money wasn't fun. I mean, look at the Red Cross. And how much of a nonprofit? That's a nonprofit. That's a nonprofit. And people see it, and then you find out Red Cross really doesn't help anybody. It's mostly just funneling money up to the top, and the people who volunteer get like steak dinners all the time. So it's kind of like
a lot of salesmanship. There's a lot of salesmanship. That said, I do think sometimes these groups are really important, and we do need to unite to try to make political change. But unfortunately, as Chuck was saying, they do get co-opted by donors, and donors tend to have different values and interests than the rank and file in many of these groups.
No, you're right. I think that is another difference. If your nonprofit is funded by either the government or like corporate type of donors, you're not going to really do as much as like the ones that are funded by actual people who care. But I wonder what's your thoughts? Because I'm still trying to understand my own thoughts on it. Do you think that nonprofits were really established or kind of are here because rich people do not want to just pay that in taxes, which will be able to actually solve these problems?
Well, I mean, the theory behind the nonprofit, which I think makes sense, is that they don't actually make a profit. So there's nothing to tax, because when companies are taxed, they're taxed on their profits.
Oh, no, not that. I'm talking about the rich people who donate to the nonprofit.
Oh, why do they give to them?
Do you think that nonprofits are kind of set up because rich people want the tax break from donating to a nonprofit rather than rich people's money just being taken and given to the government to find actual like end all be all solution for something or stop something from being an issue?
I think that's very much part of it. Yeah. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Dang, how?
I mean, I assume that you do because you asked.
I do too. That was a thought I was having, and it's like, yeah. I mean, it really. I mean, because the government technically is a nonprofit too,
right. And it represents all of us.
Yeah.
And that's why you have like the Bill Gates Foundation or the Bill and Melinda Gates. I'll thank you very much. Keep your hands off of my money. I'll decide where I'll spend it. Yeah. And of course, a lot of times they'll spend it in ways that aren't really the best way to do it. Although that said, sometimes he's done some good things too. All right, let's play. And there are a lot of good things have come from billionaire donations. Right. I mean, we have a library system, Carnegie libraries all over the country, because Andrew Carnegie gave away the $1 billion that he took from by paying steel workers 5 cents an hour.
And that's the thing.
But it would have been better if the government made him pay them a living wage, didn't let him make all that profit, taxed away a lot of his other profit, and then built the libraries themselves. That would have been a better way, but okay.
I agree with you.
All right, let's play a little more, because there's a little more to this, and this really gets to what we should be doing as organizers.
Or why they came into existence to begin with. That's the problem with the nonprofit industrial complex.
By the way, Chuck is a great organizer. He's part of
we got to put the video back up. We don't see the video part.
Oh, you can't. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I didn't. I got to fade that in there. Yeah. So state-based universal healthcare is his issue right now. One-payer states, and he really is amazing. And he doesn't fundraise. He's doing it all. I think that's part of it. It's a labor of love for him, which is awesome. But I wish he could make some money doing it, because he deserves it. But
of course,
money changes everything. So maybe he wouldn't be as good. Maybe he wouldn't be as there. He would start making compromises if he had to raise money.
Yeah.
And so they then become narrowed out. They become a shell of what they were originally intended to be in order simply to continue existing. I have conversations with friends over the years, and we say the problem is that these organizations they exist to exist. That's their primary function, is simply to exist.
That's exactly what you were saying, Carlos.
Yeah.
So I want to jump forward a little bit to Rob, because I speak a little bit here, and there's really no need to hear me talk. You hear me talk enough, but I want you to catch Rob Call's comment, because Chuck has issues with the way these groups run, and Rob's big issue is their vision or lack of a
want to
vision.
see in 10, 20, 50 years. And
Right.
I think it's an important thing to have. It's an important thing to give people hope.
Is that because there's no agreement on what the vision should be? I mean, there's some of us who would want, a clean, green environment, others who want peace, others who want true economic justice, but we can't all agree on what the future should look like.
I think there's a lot of agreement. I think the problem is nobody's working together to make it happen. It's all siloed. Everybody's doing their own thing. And they're doing some good work, I mean, in what they're doing. And I don't think we want to attack them for what they're doing. The problem is they're not working together. And I think that's really essential. There are some groups that have created alliances and coalitions, but we just haven't seen the kind of a ecosystem and infrastructure that the right has, that has become so powerful and so effective.
Yeah, and I would underscore.
I'm going to just stop it there, because I want your comment on that. We can move on, but Carlos, it's sort of like a mirror, right? I should try to get another image of my face up there, so we have 3 or 4 of them, and really drive people insane. So he's saying these progressive groups, again, I'll give some names: PDA, them, DSA, Our Revolution. They may have do some good work. They have similar visions. I'm not sure I agree with that, but they don't work together. Is that the problem? There's not enough coordination?
I'll actually disagree with both of you. How I think they do have similar visions. And I think, to his point, I do think they are, I wouldn't say they work together as like they have constant conversations with each other, but I think they all kind of move in the same direction, kind of knowing that each other is all, that they're moving towards the same thing. I think the problem is you don't have enough of those groups willing to step out of their norms to say, all right, we're going to actually challenge the power as we should challenge it, and do that in a coordinated effort. Like, I think I'd put DSA in the same category as I would put a Working Families Party. Those are 2 essential political parties that should be separated political parties, but share the values of that's not our goal. Our goal is to work within the structure of the Democratic Party, just like Our Revolution, just like a PDA. Everyone's going to always work within their silo of the Democratic Party. So they share a vision, and they share a progressive Democrat vision, and they are walking together by trying to push the Democratic Party a little bit more progressive as time goes on. I think the problem is that they're running on a treadmill and trying to move forward.
And they're not going to break with the Democrats, right? There's not going to be a real break where they'll endorse. I made this point on a piece in the David Sirota Lever, where there was a lot of criticism of this No King's Day and how, everyone's talking about how bad Trump is, but there's no navel gazing. There's no willingness to look at the Democratic Party and criticize that. But the Lever itself doesn't say you got to go to outside the party. The Lever doesn't say vote for Shama Sawant in Seattle, vote for Andy Ellis here in Maryland, vote for Butch Ware in California. And I'm not saying they're great people necessarily, although I would vote for all of them, but they're different. They're outside of the oligarchy, and yet no institution with any real kind of, I guess, gravitas seems to be willing to say it's time to move on from the Democratic Party, Carlos.
No, I think that, and you know what, how, I don't know if you, well, I know why they say that they don't break is because they think that that's the only solution that we have there, because they don't see anything else is viable. But my objection to that has always been, nothing's viable if you keep saying it's not viable. It's only viable until you make it viable. And I mean, I wonder how other countries did it where they had other parties, or was it kind of everyone came to a consensus, or was it kind of like you just had people push and push and push? Because you could even look at a lot of people were talking about this as when the Democrats never stood on the side of Palestine, that the Democratic Party was going to go the way of like the Whig Party and become a failed party. My thing is, how come when that happened, it wasn't that there were now, instead of 2 parties, 3 parties? Why was it that one party had to fall for there to be another party to come up? So is it our just political structure here in America or in the States that we do not have multiple parties? Or is it that there's just not enough political will from people or from these organizations to say, we are going to step outside of this?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is the system as you describe it. I think it's a winner-take-all system, and in a winner-take-all system, I think it's very tough to have more than 2 parties. In the UK, they have winner-take-all, but they have so many little tiny districts that they do have more than one. They have 3, 4 parties. But basically, it's the Tories and Labour. Sometimes the Liberals get some votes. There's the UKIP party, I think, in Scotland. But there's a lot of tiny districts. If you look at the map, just like in one little city, there's a lot of elections there. So you can have a party that focuses just on a local issue and they can get some votes. In England, we don't really have that. Our congressional districts are so big. I would think in maybe states. Locally.
No, I mean, even look kind of locally, how you don't see like you don't see the Green Party racking up your local elections like that. And I don't know, is it because they're just not a lot of Green Party people in general, or what is it? Because I even look at like the races where it's nobody lists if they're Democrat, Republican, Green Party, all that. You would think Green Party could be able to rack up a whole bunch of those voters for those parties, because I don't have to deal with not having that name next to me or not having a D or an R, but they don't. I just want to know, like, I would love to hear a Green Party person dissect, like, what do they think the problem is with?
I'll tell you one thing Andy Ellis has said to me is that the Democratic Party in Maryland especially has gone out of its way to make it almost impossible for Green Party candidates, so that they have very high bars to getting in. They don't let them into debates these days. You have to get, all the signatures on a petition written. You can't even use electronic. So he would say that's a big part of it. I know there were third parties, 120 years ago. You had the Farmer Progressive Party. I think you had the Free Soil Party during the before the Civil War. There were the Whigs. There were the Democratic Republicans, or Republican, whatever they were called, the Republicans. You had the party called the Free Soil Party. So there have been more than the progressives in Wisconsin 100 years ago. So there have been some third parties, but you're right. It's almost all 2 parties here. The other issue we have, it's all winner take all, whereas countries like Germany, I think France, they have proportional representation. So if a party gets 10% of the vote, they get 10% of the seats. So that also makes it easier. Israel has that too, by the way.
Of course. Israel has all the nice things because we fund them.
Healthcare. They have healthcare, single payer.
Of course. Hey, I actually learned this about Canada, that Canada did not get their universal health care through like one national push. It went like province to province. So it even supports more of like how the only chance we're probably going to get it is state by state, because we live in a country that is run by there's run by corporations. It's sad. It's sad, because then I'm even thinking about the whole like multiple parties thing. I wonder how much of it is the system and how much of it is people. How much of it is people just cannot envision not voting for the party that they've always voted for year after year after year after year. And I also think just over time, people have less expectations for their elected officials, because I remember me or you and I were talking about this, like I think last year or something, about Marion Barry, and just how so many people loved Marion Barry, but that was at a time people felt like, I have to be responsive to the people who vote for me, and how probably we never see a Marion Barry. First of all, for the DC mayor now, Muriel Bowser is nothing like a Marion Barry, but also this is her 4th term. So I don't know. Do you think that we're at a point now where people just have such little expectations of their elected officials that they just don't care?
That's a big part of it. I think that's a big part of it. I think part of the reason, and we alluded to this, but part of the reason for the support that the black voters in New York are giving to Cuomo is because they don't have high expectations. They've seen progressives, they've seen conservatives, they've seen Giuliani, they've seen de Blasio, they've seen Eric Adams, and it doesn't really matter. So why we're not going to believe the hope and change from this guy Mamdani? Who the hell is he? We don't know we don't know from Mamdani. We'll go ahead and vote for the Cuomo.
Yeah, that's sad.
It's sad. It's so awful. It's so
really
awful.
Sad. People really feel like you're not going to do anything for me anyway. So you know how I would love to do, and even I'd love to work with you with this too. I would love to just have a focus group and just what do people think about candidates? Because I've never really been able to grasp how, because I've been to the Steny Hoyer Bull Roast. We've been before. And just to see the amount of people who going could care less about a policy, could care less about any of this mess, other than I'm just going to have a nice night out.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, there's a million places to go. And you know, it's even worse though, Al, it's not even free. People are paying for this. Wouldn't you rather pay for something better?
I hear you. I know. That's maybe you should get back to the pizza talk. We'll go back to. I mean, doesn't this doesn't? Let's see if we can do it. Yeah, doesn't that look good? Pizza.
That's a good pizza.
And you know, I told you this. I think I make my own pizza. I told from scratch. Yeah, it's all from scratch. I make the dough, everything.
Next thing we're gonna get you to make is the cheese. We're gonna get some whey, and we're gonna heat up some hot water.
You got to get me a cow to milk it and everything.
I'm gonna get you a cow, and how I know how to make mozzarella cheese too. So all you gotta do is have the gloves, the hot water, and the whey, and then or the curds, and you're gonna fold it around, and we're gonna have you make some mozzarella cheese.
You know what? I'm going to get a buffalo. It ain't going to be no cow. It's going to be a buffalo because in Italy they use the water buffalo cheese. Yeah. I think. Oh, wow. I'm not really sure. I've used buffalo mozzarella, but I don't think it works as well as just the block you get at the supermarket.
They have smoked buffalo mozzarella cheese.
Smoked. All right, my man. Anything else, Carlos? Before I let you enjoy your evening.
I think the pizza was the highlight of the conversation. It made my spirits go up. The pizza made my spirits.
I like the way they're serving it in that pan. You can see a lot of times they have the round pan. You see this is a rectangle and it's got the raised sides too. And I use pans like that. So I like that.
I like the burnt pieces too. That's my favorite. Yeah. Oh. Yes. A little char on it too.
To die for. See, speaking of the pizza, because it is a New York dish, even though that's a New Haven pizza. When the thing I love about those ads from Mamdani and from the UAW is you had real New Yorkers in there. Right. They were definitely, you had that New York vibe from them. Very smart to do that.
Accent and all. They're like, you're gonna know we're from the city.
We're from Brooklyn. We're not from Manhattan. You know, this Brooklyn we're Brooklyn here. Very well done. All right, my man. We'll see you, Carlos. You have a great evening. And
always fun to be here.
We'll be back with much more in Halitics.